Hi there, I'm Robbie and this is a video about the 12-minute method, which is the name I've given to an kind of accidental discovery and body of work, which is about, on its fundamental level, us finally doing things that we have wanted to do for a long time and for some reason not done. But as I've experimented with it and learnt about it, has ended up being so jam-packed with insights that I can't fit them into this short video. I made a whole podcast about it. There's going to be 4 books, and as I talk about and think about it more, more and more things keep coming out, and that's incredible when we think about how it started. So in this video, I'm going to tell the story of the 12-minute method. I'm going to pull out some of the insights and probably point you at some of the places you might go next if you want to learn more. And you know, underneath this is, if there's a thing that you really wish you'd done, maybe you've been thinking about doing it for a long time and you haven't done it, I hope that this video in some way gives you the sense that you can do it. Gives you the little piece of inspiration. Practical inspiration is the kind of tagline for most of the series of books, in different ways, different types of practical inspiration at different times. You know, I hope you get something practical and something that you use to finally do whatever the thing is that you really wish you'd done, or you've been meaning to do for a long time. One of the interesting things about the story is it didn't come from there. Really, it came from me. I mean, there's so many ways to think about this, but it came from me seeing a thing in my life that I was basically afraid of and anxious about, and deciding to do something about that. And part of the reason I decided to do that is I was working with a coach, and so coaches are really good for helping you do things you really want to do. And part of it really came from the ideas of Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art. And that's The War of Art is Stephen Pressfield's book about winning our creative battles, about what he calls resistance. He thinks of it as a universal force that stops us doing the things that really matter to us, whether that's starting a business, being a writer. He has a funny list at the start, like anything that requires tighter abdominals, we get resistance for. Any acts of the heart, so many things. And if you go to my website, I wrote an article about that back in the day. You scroll through my blog, not the 12-minute blog, the other one, come back to the 12-minute blog in a sec, you'll find an article about dancing with resistance. Dancing with resistance, easy for you to say. And in The War of Art, one of the things he says is there's a good rule of thumb. The more resistance you feel towards doing something, the more important that thing is for your soul's evolution. That's pretty big words. And on some level, when I read The War of Art, I had the sense that that was probably right, and I've really found it to be true. And we'll come back to that in a sec. But I was feeling a lot of resistance about posting anything online, so certainly anything I'd created, but really even jokes on Facebook. Now, it was 2016 at the time, so Facebook and social media was a particularly weird place in the UK, and probably in other parts of the world. Certainly we hear stories about it in the US at that time, or we did over here. And so my coach and I designed a practice. I would write a short blog on my train journey. On my train journey, I was commuting into London 3 days a week at the time. So I did this train journey 6 times a week from Clapham Junction in southwest London to London Waterloo, which is a big transfer train hub. And I would write the article on it. I would proofread it once and I would post it online, just as it was. I thought I'd post it on LinkedIn because no one read LinkedIn. It's changed a bit now, but still, felt like the safest place I could do it. And I decided I'd do it 5 times over the course of the next couple of weeks before I went on holiday. And I did it. And it wasn't fun. I can kind of imagine the feeling of tension hovering over the post button. I did some things to make it a bit easier. I put a little kind of disclaimer at the bottom. This piece was written on my train journey, with proofread once, with minimal edits, and posted online, so that people couldn't, my fears were a lot about humiliation, about people laughing at me, telling me my writing was terrible, telling me I was wrong. And it's like, the train thing got me out of a load of that. Because if I was wrong, well, I didn't have time to look it up. I wrote on a train. If the writing was clumsy, well, it was written on the train. And many other things. And no one did laugh at them. Now, they didn't get many likes or comments. Some of them might not have got any, certainly at the start. But they got some likes and some comments across these 5. And I decided to do 5 because I'd heard from Tim Ferriss that when he started his podcast, he did 5 episodes because thought he'd be so embarrassed by the first one that he'd give up. So he committed to 5. And it wasn't nice to do. That's what I kind of think looking back. But I could feel it was good. It was good for me. It was good that I'd written these pieces. So I decided to make it a weekly practice. And I've been doing that weekly writing practice for over 6 years. As I record this, probably almost exactly 6 years since the weekly writing practice started. And now over time, the reason this is called the 12-minute method, over time I stopped getting the train as much, but I knew the practice was important to me. I didn't necessarily love it. I kind of liked it. I knew it was important. So I thought, what can I do on days when I don't get the train? And I checked how long the train was the next time I got it. It took about 12 minutes. So then I started setting a timer. Right while the timer's going, stop when it stops after 12 minutes, proofread it once and post it online. And then, yeah, like I said, now there's 6 years of those blogs. 250-something, 260-something articles written in that way. On my LinkedIn, now on my website at robbieswale.com. And 250 mathematicians amongst you, 6 years, 250, that doesn't make sense. Well, there's some weeks I haven't done it. There's sometimes I've been on holiday. I don't tend to write them at Christmas. It's like, but I've kept the habit going for 6 years. Now, an interesting thing happened about 3 years in. Seth Godin published a collection of his blog. And I thought, and that gave me a little idea. And I also had this thought, well, if someone really wanted to read all the blog posts I'd written, they were only on LinkedIn at the time, it would have been really hard. I was like, well, I could make it easier for people. I meant the fictional 10 people who might like to read my whole blog. I could make it easier for them by putting them into a book. And then I thought it'd be funny, because I could call it, I wrote this book in 12 minutes, which appeals to my sense of humor. And, what else? So then the kind of next key moment in the story is I enlisted the help of my friend Steve Creek, who's a professional copy editor and copywriter, to help me edit the book. It probably needed some light editing, I thought, and to help me with the process. And so we had a coffee one time when we were talking about this. He came down to visit us. We had a coffee about it, and he said, it's a great title. Could the book do the same thing? So could the title, I wrote this book in 12 minutes, is provocative. Maybe a bit funny, but certainly provocative. It's saying, I did this in 12 minutes. Why haven't you done that thing that you've been meaning to do? But can the book do the same thing? So people get that, they get that. But will the book actually help them do their thing? And that was interesting. Good question. Could it? I didn't know. So what I did is I thought about, well, what are the stages that we have to go through to do these kinds of things, to write a book, to start a business, to start any kind of creative project, to change ourselves, to change our organizations. Like, what do you have to do that? And I came up with 4 stages. And then I sat down in my living room with all the blogs printed off, about 140, 150 of them, 80,000 words. That's what I'd written in 3 years. 3 years, 12 minutes a week, 80,000 words. That's what it gets you. And it turned out, bizarrely, that it did work. That I had written a book about something. That the pieces I'd written dealt out pretty much all of them into these 4 stages. And there were a few that didn't, like 10 or 11, or whether we're like the 10 or 11, I don't know, less than 20, I could find it out, that either didn't fit into them, those stages, or they were duplicates. So I'd written the same thing twice without realizing it, because over 3 years that might happen. But other than that, they did fall pretty neatly into those four stages. And so miraculously, 12 minutes a week got me 80,000 words. That's incredible. And they were 80,000 words about something. And retrospectively, it feels obvious to me that might happen because, because in 12 minutes, you don't really have time to think. So I was writing about what am I most interested in that week. And what I'd been wrestling with was starting a business, my writing practice, creating other things, doing these hard things, changing myself through my coaching, and also being a coach. That was when I started my coaching business. And coaching is really just helping people do the things they want to do but aren't doing. If they were already doing it, they wouldn't hire the coach. So it makes total sense that's what I've been writing about, but I didn't plan it at any time. And that feels pretty magical to me too. In the end, I decided that I got some advice that really, it might work better as a series of books. That actually 80,000 words was a bit too many. And also that it would make it more accessible to separate those stages. So that's what I did. That's when the phrase the 12-minute method came about. That's the name of the series. So the 2 books are out so far as I record this, a 3rd one just about to come. So the 4 stages are how to start. So that's the first book, how to start when you're stuck. Then you got to keep going. If you don't keep going with your thing, whatever it is, you won't create something that really matters. That's the second book, how to keep going when you want to give up. The 3rd one is tricky. In order, it kind of has to come here, but really it should come last in some ways, which is how to create the conditions for great work. So we have to do that. If we want to do really great work, we have to do things we need to do our best work. But the 2 most important conditions for doing your best work are that you start and that you don't quit. Because if you don't start, you'll never do your best work. And better to do some work than perfect work, because perfect work doesn't exist. So you've got to start and you've got to keep going. If you give up, so like the most read 12-minute article that I've ever written was written about two and a bit years in, I think. If you Google "It's Time for You to Die," Robbie Swale, you'll find it. If you Google "Time for You to Die," Robbie Swale, LinkedIn, you'll find the LinkedIn one. You see all the comments, the likes, the shares. It really captured something. It came 2 years in. I couldn't have written that as the first article. I had to keep going. Then there are some other things, habits, mindsets, relationships that really help us thrive. That's the third part. And the 4th part is, if you want to make your work really make a difference, you have to share it. That's going to be the 4th book. It might be out when you're watching this. It's coming out late 2022. And in a way, that's the most important one for me, because this, for me, was all about a sharing practice. It was about, how do I become someone who isn't so anxious about sharing their work? That happened. It happened slowly, somewhere between 3 and 5 years in, I think. It's definitely happened. And what's interesting about this is it really feels that Pressfield was right. That doing this thing that I had huge resistance to, procrastinated around loads, was very scared of, in all kinds of ways, transformed me and evolved my soul and self more than I could have imagined. Incredible abundance created. 4 books. I mean, and that's only the first half of the blog. Plus I've changed. How I think has changed. How I speak has changed. My confidence to just do something like this is I can do this in one take and I'm going to share it, warts and all. That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't done all this practice. I've created clients, created money, like not all the clients I've created, all the money, but the amount of abundance and satisfaction that has come from these 12 minutes a week is amazing. So I want to share really the 2 big insights, one each from, I guess, both of these books. First one is, nothing exists unless we start it. And if you start something, even for only a small amount of time a week, after a few years, you have something magical. In this case, I had 80,000 words. And then from this one, what I realized is I'm now someone who hasn't given up on a habit for 3 years. And if you believe like me that talent is overrated, and most talent is just people who have practiced stuff a lot more than we have, and you won't give up on something, then really anything feels possible, as long as the time horizon is long enough. Because I can start something, I can practice, and I know now I can keep it going. So look, I hope you start your thing, whatever it is, a little practice, even just 12 minutes a week. Remember, 12 minutes a week, not 12 minutes a day. I hope you keep it going. If you want some help with that, get in touch. There's a free 12-minute method group on Facebook. You can sign up to my mailing list to get, whatever I'm working on straight to your inbox. Contact me about coaching or about any questions about this. One of the most meaningful things to me is helping people do these things. Take them out of creative hell, which is what it feels like when you really want to sing. I know this, I remember it. When I really want to sing, when I really want to ask someone out, when I really want to start a business and be doing something that's meaningful for me, it's like hell. One of the most meaningful things for me is helping people get out of that and into action. So I can help you with that in any way. Drop me an email, contact me on social media, be in touch. Maybe we work together. Maybe I can just send you a link to something that I found useful about something or connect you to somebody. But thanks for watching. And look, do the work. What I've discovered is these things that we feel like that give us the creative hell feeling. I've never encountered someone where them doing their thing wouldn't lead to more good things, more true things, more beautiful things. So do your thing. And isn't it disappointing that I didn't finish 12 minutes in? I looked at the clock, I thought about finishing, and then I thought, no, I got a few more things to say. Have a wonderful day.